This Civic Media podcast is sponsored by UW Organ and Tissue Donation. Organ donations are desperately needed, and now is the right time to become an organ donor. Talk to your family. Get the dot. Save lives. Go to heroicdeed.com.
This is your WXCO Daily News Roundup for Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 FM and 1230 AM in Wausau.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. A new study finds 830 people in Wisconsin were killed by guns in 2022. That includes homicides and suicides. That's more people than died in car crashes. The numbers come from the Wisconsin Anti-Violence Effort Education Fund. More than 3/4 of people shot to death in Wisconsin were black. Kamala Harris is making her pitch to Wisconsin conservatives and independents with the help of Republican former Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
For us to get back to a time where we are actually having policy debates and discussions and disagreements, we have to protect what undergirds all of this. And what undergirds all of it is the Constitution.
Cheney joined the Democratic vice president at a campaign event last night in Brookfield.
The notion that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down is just wrong-headed.
Both of them say Donald Trump's promise to terminate the Constitution makes him unfit to be president. Democratic candidate for Vice President Tim Walz campaigns in Wisconsin today with the help of former President Barack Obama. The two campaign in Madison this afternoon before Walz heads to Racine tonight. Most polls show Kamala Harris and Donald Trump neck and neck in key states with 2 weeks to go until Election Day. In Wisconsin, Harris leads Trump by 2 points. In-person early voting starts today in Wisconsin. 2 million people are expected to vote in the battleground state. Not only is there the race for president, but control of the U.S. House and Senate are on the line, and new maps could change the dynamic of the Wisconsin legislature. New research is debunking old notions about bullying. Child psychologist Shelley Heimel has looked closely into bullying. She says it does not make kids more resilient.
Kids who are victimized, just sit there all day wondering what's going to happen to them next. I've had notes from kids saying how that's their life.
British researchers found people who were bullied as kids face a higher risk of unstable employment as adults and of premature death. October is Bullying Prevention Month. The Wisconsin Army National Guard met its annual recruiting target this year. That's the first time in 7 years. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
For WXCO News, I'm Brittany Merlot. The city of Wausau released its 2025 budget, and city officials and members of the community aren't happy. Wausau Mayor Doug Dinny proposed a 2.5% cut to all departments. Each department then had to come up with a list of 3 to 4 items that equal the percentage cut. Dinny says he made the decision process as easy as possible and doesn't see why there is confusion for other city leaders. Some of the things on the list include closing an area pool, eliminating Sullivan Hill operations, cutting leave pickups, and imposing a wheel tax for Wausau city residents. Many city leaders are voicing their frustration. Dinny has since said he would veto any plans that came across his desk involving a wheel tax. This proposal has been one of the biggest sources of confusion for many in this plan. The mayor also mentioned he felt some of the city officials weren't taking the cuts very seriously, throwing in items that seemed insincere. Mayor Dinny also did not give a time frame on when the budget could be completed, but says conversations between city council members are still ongoing. Early in-person voting kicks off in Wisconsin today, and local clerks are saying they're prepared for a high turnout. The Wisconsin Elections Commission is projecting over 2 million voters doing it early. To see your ballot and options for early in-person voting, check out myvote.wi.gov. A Democratic candidate for the 87th District Assembly, Bill Switala, was on the Chad Holmes Show yesterday. Here's his response to the biggest strength he'd taken to office.
I pay attention. You pay attention to what's going on in the world, and you come up with a happy medium, and you can work together with these people to come up with these good agendas. I mean, just moving on to tomorrow. I'm a little conservative. I don't want my taxes to go crazy either. I'm just like you. But we need to maintain our communities.
Inflation, the high cost of housing and rentals, and the pandemic are 3 reasons more households are using food pantries. Bob Hornacek.
Right now, we've seen kind of the real impact of the pandemic. For a while, there were so many government programs that came in. There was so much emergency food share and flooded into the system. And as that went away, we started to see some of the real impacts that had been masked by some of those government programs.
On inflation, Republican candidate for the 87th District Assembly, Brent Jacobson, says that's the most pressing issue facing Wisconsin. Democratic candidate Bill Swetala was on the Chad Holmes Show yesterday.
And I believe it's leveling out. And we do need to work on inflation, no doubt. I think that is more corporate than it is, political. I think people have to pay attention to what they're buying and spending their money. And then the prices, inflation will get better. I think we're on a good road to recovery.
There are just 2 weeks until 2 crucial events happen on the calendar: Election Day and the end of daylight saving time. We will fall back an hour on Sunday, November 3rd, to allow for more daylight in the mornings. While this change gives us an extra hour of sleep, the time difference can still cause confusion and disruptions to the schedules for kids and pets. The push to stop changing clocks was put before Congress in the last couple of years, when the U.S. Senate unanimously approved the Sunshine Protection Act in 2022, which was a bill to make daylight saving time permanent. However, the U.S. House of Representatives did not pass it, and President Joe Biden did not sign it. And the city of Wausau released its 2025 budget, and city officials and members of the community aren't happy. Wausau Mayor Doug Dinney proposed a 2.5% cut to all departments. Some things on the list include closing an area pool, eliminating Sylvan Hill operations, cutting leaf pickups, and imposing a wheel tax for Wausau city residents. And that's what you need to know. I'm Brittany Merlot for WXCO.
The Bucks head to Philly. Hi, I'm Mike Clemens with sports. The Bucks open the NBA season tomorrow night on the road against the 76ers. Chris Middleton still rehabbing after surgery on both his ankles. Doc Rivers asked if he'd first like to see Middleton practice before he plays.
It would help, but I'm just going to play it by ear. Chris has proven to me over the last year that when he comes back, he was 100% ready and he had no practices. So there are guys like that. I would say he'd be one of them. Would I like him to practice a couple times? For sure.
NFL, the Packers have the day off before preparing to play the Jaguars in Jacksonville Sunday. College football, Wisconsin hosts number 3 ranked Penn State Saturday night. Defensive coordinator Mike Tressel on Penn State's offense.
Part of their plan is to give enough exotic, crazy looks to get guys' heads spinning, to get them thinking rather than playing fast. Our strength the last couple weeks has been how fast we've played.
That's Badgers coach Mike Tressel. With sports, I'm Mike Clemens.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. U.S. theaters made a pretty good showing this past weekend, with Smile 2 leading the way. The sequel pulled in $23 million at the domestic box office, edging out the original's $22 million opening weekend in 2022. The film edged out the previous week's champ and fellow horror flick Terrifier 3, which had a 50% drop, pulling in $9 million at U.S. theaters and falling into third place. The family-friendly film The Wild Robot finished in second place with a take of just over $10 million in its fourth week of release. Finishing in fourth place was Beetlejuice 2. Sorry, I'm just sick of saying Beetlejuice back-to-back. The Michael Keaton-led sequel pulled in $5 million, which was good for fourth place, and gave the top 5 3 spooky movies. People can't seem to get enough, as the release of Hocus Pocus pulled in almost $1 million 20 years after its initial release. It's all about the scares. After months of speculation, it's been confirmed that Succession's Jeremy Strong has been cast in the Bruce Springsteen biopic Deliver Me From Nowhere. Strong will play Springsteen's manager, John Landau. The Emmy-winning actor is fresh off his appearance in The Apprentice as Roy Cohn. Deliver Me focuses on the time in Springsteen's career where he made his award-winning album, Nebraska. The Bears' Jeremy Allen White has been cast as the boss. The album Nebraska was a bit of a departure, as Springsteen's fame as a pop star was starting to skyrocket. The record is ranked 150 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums Ever list. Esquire has called Nebraska one of the most honest and emotional albums in history. Fun fact, Jeremy Strong revealed that it's also his favorite Springsteen album. Deliver Me From Nowhere has an anticipated release of sometime in 2025. How do you wash the bad taste out of your mouth called Joker Folie Eau Douce? You release a new single. That is if you're Lady Gaga. Gaga says, according to Variety, that she will release the song Disease on October 25th. It will be her first single off her 7th studio album. Gaga surprised fans by releasing an album called Harlequin last month on the heels of the release of the Joker sequel, which was panned by critics. Onward and upward. Rick and Morty fans will rejoice when they hear that the show has been renewed for seasons 11 and 12, which is crazy because season 8 hasn't even dropped yet. The word comes from New York Comic-Con by the show's executive producers Dan Harmon and Scott Marder. Harmon was born and raised in Milwaukee. Season 8 doesn't actually premiere until 2025, which means the show will be on at least through 2029. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 6 to 8 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
A mix of clouds and sunshine today. Our high right around 72 this afternoon. The wind out of the south at 5 to 15. We could catch a sprinkle later this afternoon into this evening. Overnight becoming breezy, mostly cloudy, 43 tomorrow. Sunny and colder with a high tomorrow of 52. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Currently it's 51.
That's your WXCO Daily News Roundup from Civic Media. Subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. Find more news at bullfallsradio.com. The national news cycle never stops, but it can be hard to find news about your local community. Civic Media is dedicated to providing quality local and state news coverage across Wisconsin. With the Civic Media app, you can get notifications about local stories that matter to you and your community. Find the free Civic Media app in your phone's app store and choose notifications from the menu to tell us what kind of news you want to hear about.